Hey everyone, Ivy Lee Gaming here, and today we're playing Watcher of Realms. For today's video, we're going to do a hero guide on Valeriya. So Valeriya is one of our newest additions coming to the global servers. She is part of the Chaos Dominion faction, so you could summon her through there when you have those lovely ancient summoning crystal events. But also, we're going to be able to summon her this weekend if you're watching this now during the, September mid-month event process. She is a 10 times hero being able to be gotten through not only those ancients, which we don't have an event for, but actually the rare and legendary summoning crystals. So I'm really happy that that was the case. I was kind of confused when I saw her listed as a 10 times hero because I thought that the Chaos Dominion faction heroes could not be summoned through other crystals, but apparently she can. And I actually saw Cerebus in there too. So with that in mind, that was pretty cool actually to see that some of these heroes that are also chaotic, but maybe are something else as well, are being added to the normal summoning pool. But we're here to talk about Valeriya today. She's kind of like one of the features of the Wild Sands event coming up as well. You could say she's kind of the mascot for that event. But yeah, she's, okay, gorgeous aesthetic, first of all. Look at the sword. Absolutely beautiful. They definitely nailed the graphics. She's just a badass fighter, strong woman. Love, love, love what they did with her look. Wish she had a cool video to go along with it like they have from the event. They should just steal a clip from that, give her something cool. But anyway, let's talk about what we're looking for with Valeriya. So first, her details. They have her featured here as Arena Mastery, Burst Damage, and Self-Heal. So her description: with the most unusual background, Valeriya goes as berserk as the orcs that raised her, deadly when wounded. So her base stats here, pretty solid. Lots of HP, solid attack for a fighter, of course. Her cost is 17, which is pretty normal. Block of 2, which is okay as a fighter. Some only have 1. And then, yeah, everything else pretty standard here. When it comes to her promotions, of course, just like usual, you're gonna max her out. And as you go along, we're gonna get some bonuses like her talent enhancement here. But let's take a look at her skills first. So Valeriya had a rework, and what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna have the notes from the rework on the side because I want to talk to you guys about that too. So for all of us playing with her either on the test server as a content creator with the test server, which, oh yes, guys, I am on the test server. This is not my real account. This does not affect anybody else. This is not the Forerunner server. This is not a global server. Just a special test server that's very limited for content creators. Not many content creators even have this, so I'm grateful. But yeah, so here on the test server, I already got her with the update that had came recently in August to the Forerunner server. So if you played her on the Forerunner server a long time ago, you might not be too impressed because, well, she needed a buff, and luckily she got one. So I am going to let you guys know what the buff was, just so you can have some comparisons. So speaking of comparisons, I do want to give a shout here for our friend Mabucket. We know he has a wonderful tier list. We always reference it. But I do want to say that it doesn't appear he still has updated it since I last talked to him. I talked to him a few days ago as of this recording and asked him if he's played with her and updated his tier list since her buff. And he said no. And the buff is really good for her damage. So a lot of these numbers are probably going to go up. I can't imagine her only being a B. I feel like she's absolutely perfect in any place you're going to need a fighter. So I can't imagine keeping her this low. And maybe some of these, even Gear Raid too. And I would definitely say for her, artifact material raid, she's an S. She's absolutely an S there as well from my testing just now as her with the main DPS with pretty mediocre gear. So this is kind of his guide here. He does say, I think Guild Boss he put an A-, but I do think with her buff for her damage and the fact that she is the Nightmare faction, which is a great faction for Guild Boss, I think we can solidly bring her up to an S, or at least an S- for Guild Boss now with her damage increase. So I just wanted to give a shout there in case you guys saw that she was a 10 times hero and the first thing you did was come to my buckets tier list and you read, however, her damage output is not high enough to compete. Don't worry guys, this was before her buff, but her buff is actually really solid. So we have her talent increases attack and defense as HP drops. When HP drops to 30%, the increase peaks at 60%. So this was previously, when HP drops to 50%, the increase peaks only at 30%. So the increase there has doubled, although a lower HP requirement, but that's fine. Her ultimate skill, Blood Infusion, damage plus 120%. Each attack consumes 10% of the current max HP and generates 1 stack of Power of the Sword, up to 8 stacks. The hero cannot be healed during the skill. When the skill ends, it deals 440 burst damage to the main target and 4 targets around them. Love that. Love that extra burst damage at the end. Burst damage is huge in so many areas of the game. It's going to be massive for completing something like Chapter 9 that we just got of campaign, or using her for some big damage in Void Rift as well. So Power of the Sword here is burst damage to the main target increased by 50% with each stack after the skill ends. So that's kind of the explanation for Power of the Sword. So just so you have a reference of why she was not considered as good for damage, this is now 120%, right? So it previously was only 80. That's a big jump in plus damage, and that's really, really big. I'm really, really happy to see that, honestly. And the duration's a couple seconds shorter. It was 18 seconds to 16 seconds, but I think that massive damage increase more than makes up for it. And Power of the Sword was also only 40%, and now it's 50%, so even more of a damage increase. Her basic attack is a physical attack, dealing 120% damage to one enemy. Plunging Slash, an auto skill, smashes the target, dealing 300% damage and inflicting vulnerability to physical damage. During the ultimate, each attack reduces Plunging Slash's cooldown by 3 seconds. So Plunging Slash did have a change. It used to only be inflicted on the target for, let's see, the vulnerability here was only for 5 seconds, but now it's for 10 seconds. So double the time that physical damage vulnerability will last on a hero. Now, keep that in mind for something even like Guild Boss. Once you start putting those kind of debuffs on the Guild Boss, that's enabling your whole team to do more damage as well, not just her. So she also comes in with a little bit of debuff support to help your entire team to do more damage. So definitely a good skill. We have Will of Steel, her passive. When HP drops below 30%, it restores 6% HP per second. Triggers the following effect instead during the ultimate. The hero enters the Unyielding state upon taking fatal damage and dies immediately when the ultimate ends, which can be triggered up to 1 time per deployment. So Unyielding is just that you won't die for a time period. You just can't die, which really comes in handy in a lot of hard content, or something like Arena, Gear Raid 2, when you have those dang boulders and all those hard hits that start happening. Unyielding can really come in handy, so she's going to be really strong for that as well. And we have a cost reduction for Arena, just like all of the other chaotic faction heroes. Reduces the hero's cost by reduces the hero's cost in the arena by 4. So she's already pretty cheap. So that would make her cost to place an arena only 13. So that's really good to start getting the heroes out there quickly. And man, she's going to do some good damage. So I'm really, really happy for this buff. It's actually really solid. They even adjusted one of her awakenings to an increased chance of stacking up the power of the sword, extra stacks, which I guess we can talk about here with her awakening. That's awakening 5. But here, let's see. So might be behind my head a little bit, but I'll read through. We have awakening 1 during the ultimate increases attack speed by 100. That's great for any fighter for sure. Awakening 2 is attack plus 5%. Awakening 3 during the ultimate ignores 20% of the target's defense. Hell yeah. Okay, dupes please. Ignore defense is always wanted. Crit rate plus 8% for Awaken 4. And her Awaken 5 is during the ultimate. There's a 50% chance to accumulate 2 stacks of power of the sword for each attack, up to 12 stacks in total. And that got a buff as well. So even her Awaken 5 is better. Not that many people are going to have Awaken 5 Valerias anytime soon, but still something to talk about. Alright, so we talked about her skills. Let's talk about her gear now. So how are you going to gear her? Honestly, just gear her as a typical DPS. Don't think too much about it besides the fact that, well, she's going to deal some damage. Just make her deal some damage and have some good HP to go along with it. Isn't going to hurt. So like something like Glacier set could even come in handy. Although it's probably the lower tier option for what sets you'd want on her, honestly. But I don't even have a set on her right now for the main one here. I only have a mixed set. And for the most part here, guys, I'm never going to be using the red gear because I'm not even trying to farm that on the test server because that's not relatable to most people watching these videos. Eventually, like a long time from now, I will try to start pushing to max the hero with the highest stats I can throw on them and do damage comparisons. But right now, I think we're still at the phase where most people want to see slightly relatable content, which means farming like gear raid stage 18 and below. Most people aren't doing the stage 19 and above to get the special gear, honestly, and I'm in that boat myself. And it's hard. It's really hard. So I don't want to put the crazy gear on people. I also am not hunting for perfect stats. I'm just getting what I can. So of course something like a Night Terror would also be good for her. But I have mixed sets. I do have crit rate, attack bonus, and attack bonus here with lots of good crit damage rolls. So while I don't have as much crit damage piece per se, which would be a little bit more ideal instead of having to do crit rate, honestly, my main account and the test server, I'm really struggling to get those big crit rate rolls to where I can get 100% crit rate in only the substats. So I'm choosing to get the crit rate in a piece like this a lot of the time. It's just, it is what it is. Which is great because I got 100% crit rate and her attack is solid. 12,000, almost 13,000 attack here, which is more than double her stat, which is kind of your goal. I know I've heard a couple people say this. If you're trying to looking for a threshold, you really want to double your base attack and how much you're plussing here before you worry too much about crit damage. So that's what I did. Like, I didn't put her in super OP gear. She doesn't have 12,000 attack, 100% crit rate, and 300% crit damage. She doesn't. She has pretty basic, relatable gear, and we're going to go have some fun in the gear raids. So I just have her in some pretty simple, low roll attack calamity gear as well. So that's kind of what we're working with. I don't have perfect gear. It's going to be a long, long grind before I have anything close. And I don't grind this to where I want it to take away from the focus of my real account. So, you know, I'm trying, but I would prefer to keep things not super OP so that way you guys can, you know, kind of relate to it a little bit more. The only exception is I did fully max her skills because I kind of want to see how they're going to be once their skills are maxed. I want to start doing that for all of these because you want to see, are they worthy to max their skills in the first place, honestly? And because the skill resources are kind of expensive and hard to do. And I think she is, based on her damage increases are great. Skill cost reduction is always wanted. More HP recovery, she can help heal herself. I really like that overall. And as far as an artifact goes, I did put her exclusive artifact on her, even though most people are not going to have it. It's not too crazy. I did not level it up. I did not promote it. It's just the very base level 1 Valeriya's exclusive artifact, Bones of Savagery, which says during the ultimate, for each attack dealt, increases crit damage by 10%, stacking up to 3 times. This effect expires after the ultimate ends. So it's just some bonus crit damage, which honestly, depending on the build, we might actually even do better with, to be fair, this is actually kind of silly. Oh, I don't think I even have any. Maybe we do. We might even do better with Ancestral Teachings maxed out than just this level 1 with just some crit damage boost. This is going to give us more attack all the time, which is going to be more beneficial than only a bonus during the ultimate. But hey, I thought it would be fun to use her exclusive artifact because it's her exclusive artifact. But honestly, you might benefit more from the epic one maxed out to level 25, which is pretty ironic, I think. But all right, I'm just going to show her in a couple places. I don't want this video to be too long, and I mean, of course we want to show the hero, but there's only so much we can really show. Guild Boss, absolutely want to bring her in there. I haven't built up my Guild Boss stuff yet. That takes a whole big team to build, and I kind of want to build like a free-to-play friendly, relatable looking Guild Boss team where I'm just plugging and playing in these 10 times heroes. So that's a big work in progress that is not something I've had time to do yet. So eventually we'll get there, but absolutely can use her in Guild Boss. Promotion raids, of course, she's going to make that very easy. Artifact material raid, let's go there. So we're going to change out Valeriya to Ancestral Teachings, actually, instead. I changed my mind. I don't want to leave her in her exclusive. Let's use her in a level 25 Ancestral Teachings. All right, and let's go into stage 16 of the Artifact Material Raid. She's not, like, gonna be as good as Arrogance, who is one of the best in the game, I would say, or Salazar, who would be king against himself. But she's definitely a top damage dealer for this role. So we're going to go ahead and bring in Baron. And then we're going to bring in Valeriya. We let the boss cross over that tile just a little bit so we can attack him from 4 places if we want to. But this time we're going to try not to do that. We're actually going to bring in and do a little bit of a different strategy. I am going to use Vortex as my healer and pop Valeriya's ultimate. Then we're going to go ahead and place some other units from the sides. We're going to use Azor because nobody likes Azor, so let's give him some love. All right. They're getting some big hits on the boss now. Things are ramping up as we have quicker attack speeds thanks to the Nightmare Faction bonus. And then we're going to bring in Brokir over here to prevent more enemies from coming in and let Wrath keep attacking the boss. All right. So now, this is when it gets interesting. I'm going to bring in Scorch up here to take care of these enemies before they even get down. That's going to be a huge help so we don't have distractions coming in. He might die soon, but it's okay for now. We're going to bring in Volka up here to do the same thing. So hopefully we can keep the focus on the boss and have less enemies breaking through to heal the boss. It's kind of all about that, right? So Brokir is a beast. He's just blocking so much. Scorch is up there scorching people. And here we go. Job done. So that strategy worked a little bit better than what I originally had tried. I had originally tried to put 4 damage dealers at the boss. Instead of putting 2 people up at the top, I used all around the boss, and it just didn't work as well. But using Valeriya as a main DPS, I would say is successful. Again, I don't think she's going to kill him quite as fast as like an Arrogance. There's definitely a few others that are above her in damage, but she more than doubled, yeah, not more, but she did a lot better damage than Wrath, which is great. And I was able to use some unconventional choices in Scorch and Volka as other fighters just to help keep the other enemies distracted as things started to get busier. And then I just used 2 defenders on each side. So I used the twins here, Brokir and Azor, the Frosty and the Fire twins, right? They're fire and ice. But you absolutely could have just used Mariel and Isolde instead. So Azor actually really helped in that battle, which is pretty cool because he's someone a bit underrated. But the damage he did compared to putting another defender there, where eventually they just get a bit overwhelmed, I think he really, really made a big difference. All right, so another place that she's gonna shine is Gear Raid 2. I don't think I'm gonna worry about necessarily doing a run, but I will show you. I guess let's do Let's do 18 and not really do it. Let's just kind of do it. All right, so I have Brokir in there. Let's take out her. Let's put in her. I'm not going to do the full run. I just kind of want to show her role. It's too much of a headache, let's be honest. But I'm going to show the roles. So we're going to bring in Brokir as our first defender. And then we could actually bring in Valeriya as the secondary little damage dealer to help kill them even faster. And this is going to be a really strong duo. We can bring in a healer like Vortex. And look at Brokir just be a beast and tank that. So this is the good example of a great strong duo here. And she also has Unyielding, so you can even put her as a sacrificial lamb sometimes. Keep that in mind as well. So the boss is going to do his smashes. I'm not even adding other people. I was just trying to show that. But see, we survived that first wave of the boss smashes and the roly-polies coming in with that little trio right there. It just shows how good they actually can perform in that role. Really, really good. So that was really happy. I was really happy to see that she can hang, and I also love the fact that she has Unyielding. It's going to help her have a little extra survivability during some of those smashes, or during like just using her as a sacrificial lamb. But you don't have to. She can actually be a proper DPS on the side as well. Okay, so I can't really show Arena, even though that's kind of where her strong point is, because it's anti-air Arena for one that's on right now here on the test server. And the test server, I don't really have real Arena rankings. I guess I should try to push myself up through the rankings just for the sake of being able to do real Arena fights. Because these are not real fights at all. It's just completely random. And they're bots and they're not hard. So it's kind of hard to even show a team because there's not really a team. But obviously she's going to be great for Arena. She's going to have low placement cost. She's got Unyielding for extra survivability. And she could be a main DPS. Plus she's got some heal, self-sustain, right? Self-heal. That is really helpful. So she's going to be a rock star in Arena for sure. Any ones where you want to place that ground unit to help ward off the enemies, like the sustained DPS, I think this is a really good role for her. But yeah, that's it for the Valeriya video, guys. I really think she's wonderful. Guild boss, I mean, let's see, let's just go through quick. Obviously, faction trials, basic trial for sure. Her faction, of course, she's going to shine in the Nightmare faction or the Chaotic faction. Tide, you can pretty much use anyone depending on your synergy for everything with Tide. And then the gear raids, I wouldn't say you would probably use her in, well, you're definitely not using her in Gear Raid 3. There's no point. Gear Raid 1, Behind the Wall. If you're early on and you're just looking for someone to do some extra damage in one of the lower stages, like 18 and below, and you're just looking for someone to do some damage from behind the wall, she can certainly be that, or maybe even in front of the wall and absorb a little bit more hits because of her self-sustain and her Unyielding. But she's a really great hero, and I'm really excited for her. I really want to try her in my real guild boss team. I just don't have her for real on my main account. But yeah, this has been the test server, and this has been a Valeriya guide. Hope this was helpful, guys. She's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, don't forget, guys, don't forget, well, we don't have her fancy artifact. You can just use a little Ancestral Teachings. Shout out to Mabucket for his wonderful research there. This is such a good artifact and easy to max out. So that's what I used on her. Go for it. Don't need to be too fancy.